It's time for my Shadow the Hedgehog review for the PlayStation 2. Shadow the Hedgehog was a game released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. This game did not have a PC version like Sonic Heroes did. But it's time to move on to the physical review. The review of this game might be negative, the way people think about what I'm going to say in this review, and some people might agree with me. I know people like me, opinion on this game is very rare, and it could be good or bad depending on what you think. But let's move on to this review, shall we? Alright. So, basically, the story of this game is that Shadow is looking over a city known as Westopolis, and suddenly aliens invade the city or whatever. And, yeah, that's basically it. That's basically how the story goes. I mean, sure, the story might not be perfect, but it's not really too bad. You should give the story a chance as the game goes by. Don't judge it by the way it begins, like people have in reviewing this game before. But this game though was released under a good hype, I should say. I think people were hyped about this game. Surely, the gameplay looked new and innovative, which it was. But as the game went by, people learned to complain a lot. What they complained about was mainly, get this, Shadow has guns, which makes the game bad. Okay, I can understand why a platformer / shooter is not your favorite, but let me get on with the reason why they think that it's not good that Shadow's using guns or so and so, whatever. Because it's not a Sonic game. People keep saying it's a Sonic game, so it shouldn't have guns, it's a Sonic game, it shouldn't have this and that. But I think this game was mainly brought out because to make Shadow appear differently than Sonic, because if you looked in Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic played very similar, Shadow played very similar, so I could see why they did this. And that's not a flaw I find in this game. They also have vehicles or whatever to go in. Some of them are very useful. Like, there's a vehicle where you have to, where you need to jump from platform to platform, like, very high. And there's other things like motorcycles or whatever, and, like, basically, like, Jeeps, kind of. I know they're not exactly Jeeps, but they're basically like them. And I could see why people don't like it, but it's just as fast as running, which is a good thing, because if Shadow, which is the fastest creature in the world, was not as fast as a vehicle, that wouldn't make sense. But I guess another argument people would use is that if the vehicles are just as fast as Shadow, does that mean that that you could just drive on a vehicle and you're like as fast as Sonic or Shadow? I could see it from that point of view, but overall, just ignore the vehicles and you'll really have nothing to complain about. It's not essential. Even the guns aren't too essential. I mean, surely there are things where you can't reach with homing attack that you have to shoot them with, but I think it's pretty good concept. The only thing, a thing that I complained about over the years, that I've been discovering more and more flaws in the game than I have in the past, is that Shadow the Hedgehog has this thing in the weapons system that swords or melee weapons have ammunition in them, which is not really too good in my opinion. It's pretty pointless. However, that's a minor flaw, I guess you could say, because you don't really need the weapons, but I mean, swords can do it from a further range, which is why swords are pretty good. But yeah. Now, the level designs are really good. I love all the levels. The one where you're in outer space, when it's kind of like a technological feel, you know, like with, you know, where you find the computer room. But it's pretty good, the level designs. There's only one level that I absolutely hate, which I think pretty much everyone agrees with. The level you're in, it's not even a standard, you know, level where you're running around destroying enemies or whatever, you know, like a speed-based kind of level with guns and everything. It does have weapons, but it's like you're inside a ship with Maria, who's the one that Shadow wants to avenge or whatever, and I don't really like that. The level is, you have to walk around, you have to run around fighting enemies and going on a ship. You have to destroy all of them. You can't even, like, skip them. Every single one of them has to die or be destroyed, since they're technically robots, but it's just an awful layout, that level. I've always had nightmares beating that level, and I think when I beat the level, the timer, I think, was like 26 minutes, which is absurd with a Sonic-based game, or game of that genre, because it's not a Sonic game. But I've always found that to be a huge issue. That level. That level can ruin your experience temporarily, but one bad level is, you know, it's not awful, but it's pretty bad. A lot of games, a lot of great games have one bad level in it, and the games itself turn out to be pretty damn good. But there's one more flaw I must discuss about this game. The overall design of, like, the overall story of the game is a train wreck at the, like, sure, I mean, the story, it doesn't seem too bad as it starts out, but since you have multiple paths to go through, they're like, you get to choose this, you get to choose that, but in reality, you don't. And this is why. You have, overall, it adds a lot of replay value, which is a good thing. However, you seem to be repeating at all the levels you already beat. Like, you're in Westopolis so many times, it's not even funny. Like, the first level, because you have to start off in the first level. But there are, you know, there's a neutral-based thing where you just go through the level. And there's the dark-based thing where you have to do the dark tasks, such as kill all the good guys. And there's another one where you have to kill all the bad guys as a good guy. And they branch it out as different stories, but it's overall not really, it's basically useless in my opinion, because they have one actual ending. So you have to go through all the fake stories just to find out what really happens. And I think that's unfair. I think that's a bad concept. But sometimes when the story is weak, you look at the gameplay. And the gameplay is good, like I've stated. The level designs is overall great. The soundtrack is pretty damn good, too. And I think it's an overall good game. It's a good game. It's not a bad game at all, like everyone thinks it is. I don't think it's an amazing game like I used to think it was. And another minor annoyance is that no matter what side you're choosing, in the fake storylines, you have to fight both of them. Like, they both go after you. And you have them, your side complaining that you're killing, like, oh, you're killing the aliens or whatever, even though they're shooting at you. But that's another story. I mean, that's just, whatever. I mean, you just have to try to look past it. But as you fill up your chaos meter, you have good and you have bad. Like, the good is basically only essential for neutral based, where you just have to get through the level. You speed through the entire level, basically, and if you're trying to go through an objective, do not use a good meter. And the bad one is basically a chaos blast, where you basically blast through all of the nearby enemies, they all die. I think it's a good game, though, overall. Besides the flaws I discussed, there are a lot of pros. So overall, the game is worth an 82%. Sure, it's not great, and it's basically just a good game. But that's basically my opinion on the game. It's good. It's not bad at all. It's not great, but it's an overall good concept. And, you know, all those points were taken off, obviously, because of the, cons I discussed. But a lot of the pros outweigh the minor cons. That's why it's not a lower score, like in the 70s or whatever. But, thank you for watching this review. Stay tuned.